What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Resleevables Mirage Edition. I'm your host, Cedric Phillips at Cedric A. Phillips on all of the things, and I'm, of course, joined by my partner in crime, Patrick Sullivan at Basic Mountain. Patrick, it's time to go into block season.
I love it. This set is something of a godfather for a lot of the way that Magic gets designed today and has been for decades.
For sure.
The first set up for sealed play. The first set that was the first set of what was a real block.
Yep.
I know that we've had Ice Age block, but that was kind of an incoherent thing. This is a
Very
real
much so.
block.
Yep.
This is the first set that I ever drafted.
Okay.
Have a little story about that too.
Very cool.
And it is beautiful. The art, the creative elements of it, the flavor text. There is a reason
The packaging.
this set is revered the way that it is among people of my generation, because it was way ahead of its time. It was full of a bunch of fun and useful cards, and it is beautiful. The setting, the art, the flavor text, all of it.
The art is very, very good in this set. If you haven't really taken the dive into Mirage like we have, we look forward to you joining us for that. We're going to have plenty of cards flying up on the screen, and as Patrick did mention, they are gorgeous. It's really, really good artwork.
There are very few sets that are sort of overrepresented in terms of basic lands that people still play with.
Very true.
And often the most popular ones, or the ones maybe you see the most in a tournament setting, are somewhat rare and valuable. The Guru lands come to mind, the Apex, the Euros. You can point to some things. For a while, the Zendikar, foil, extended arts were that sort of thing until Magic printed more and more of those sort of versions and kind of fell by the wayside.
Yep.
Mirage shows up because it's beautiful. And that's a testament to how enduring the creative sensibilities of this set are.
Well, not only are there beautiful cards, but there's a lot of things to go over when it comes to Mirage. So we'll be starting this episode, like we always do, with the facts of Mirage. All right, everybody, we are back and ready for the facts of Mirage. But before we get there, we must, of course, shout out our sponsor, Tales of Adventure.
Thank you, as always, to Tales of Adventure. Their website is toamagic.com, and you can also follow the store owner, TOA Michael, on Twitter, who posts deals and sales and bundles throughout the course of the week. Their website is excellent. One of my favorite features is that the high-end cards are individually scanned. So if you're in the market for, let's say, a Lion's Eye Diamond, you can pull up the images and the condition, so you can be confident you're purchasing the card that you want. All orders inside the United States are shipped free with tracking, and make sure to use promo code Resleevables at checkout for 8% off of any order. Tales of Adventure. Eternal lives here.
All righty, let us dive in with the fact that Mirage is the 9th Magic the Gathering expansion. It was released on October 8th, 1996, and became tournament legal on November 1st, 1996. And it contains 350 black bordered cards, 110 commons, 110 uncommons, 110 rares, and 20 of the aforementioned beautiful basic lands. Mirage's print run is a pretty large one, estimated at 400 million cards. Those cards were sold in 15 card boosters and 60 card starter decks. Now, I believe in Alliances, we were looking at 12 card boosters.
That's correct.
Reserves. Those days are over. We're at 15 now. And these booster packs contained 11 commons, 3 uncommons, and 1 rare. And the starter decks, well, those contained 26 commons, 9 uncommons, 3 rares, and 22 lands alongside a rule book. Those boosters that we held up, well, they showcased 5 different card arts. There's Polymorph, Tanawa, Maro, which we're going to be talking more about later, Jungle Troll, and the very hyped up Grinning Totem. And the starter decks, well, those showcase the art from Ivory Charm. Lastly, a booster box of Mirage contained 36 booster packs, but you teased a story about drafting this set?
I did. So Mirage was the first set that was, I would argue, was really made with limited in mind.
Okay.
Not just the starter decks, that's certainly part of it and helps accommodate sealed, but just the right mixture of nuts and bolts stuff at lower rarities. You know, creatures that can attack and block, removal spells.
Whoa, can you imagine?
The earlier sets that we looked at, some of them are completely absent of this.
Yes.
There isn't a way to kill anything.
Yes.
And you can't attack. Mirage has a lot of that going on, and we started hearing rumblings of booster drafts, like a new way to play Magic. So for Eugene Harvey's birthday, which was, I believe, in July, so Mirage had been out for a little while at this point.
Okay.
The plan was we're going to booster draft, like at his party in his basement or whatever.
Okay.
And so everyone's just sort of grabbing whatever. No one has any clue what's going on, except, of course, for Eugene, who proceeded to spend his birthday just busting everyone up with Breeze Keepers.
Oh, that's fun. It's like a 4/4 flyer
with phasing for 4.
Okay.
Yeah, because everyone's like, oh, phasing. That's bad. And it's 4/4 flyer for 4. Which is pretty good.
Sure.
Yeah, I got a lot of them, and everyone's trying to attack with 2/2s, if even that.
Sure.
So that was the first set that I can claim that I drafted,
Okay.
even in a very unserious and poor way.
Well, you did your best.
I don't even know if that's true. I was overwhelmed by the experience.
I can only imagine. It's been a long time since my first booster draft, but just thinking about that experience, but you being around when it was like invented,
Yes.
it's kind of crazy.
Like, how many colors am I supposed to play?
No,
We take that for granted now.
we do.
But back in the days, I don't know.
How many cards are you supposed
4?
to play? How many
How many lands?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. What's your land spell ratio?
Yeah, 40 cards. How many lands? I don't know. 13
Yeah.
sounds right.
12ish.
Yeah.
12ish.
Whatever. Just
Yeah.
play with all the cards that seemed somewhat decent.
Yep.
It was a very fast and loose booster draft experience, but I still enjoyed it.
Let's talk more about here this wonderful set. Mirage had 2 significant different printings. One dark print with a rough finish and one light print with a smooth finish. The dark print was printed in the United States and the light print was printed in Belgium at Carta Mundi. Mirage non-basic lands have a dull green text box, which they share with Vision's non-monocolor lands. Mirage's expansion symbol is a palm tree, and that symbolizes the tropical aspects of Jamora, the world in which Mirage more or less takes place in. And now we're going to get to some names that we have seen before, because it is time to share with you who designed this wonderful set. Bill Rose was the lead. Charlie Cantino, there's some in-jokes going on there with exactly how to spell Charlie's last name that I've learned via the YouTube comments, so thank you all. Don Felice, Howard Kellenberg, and Joel Mick designed Mirage. It was developed by Bill Rose as well, who was the lead developer. Mike Elliott, William Jokic, and again, some guy named Mark Rosewater.
Still the power level guy.
Yeah.
Still developing, still tooting the numbers.
Yep.
All the things we associate Mark Rosewater with today.
Art direction was by Sue Ann Harkey. Let's learn a little more about how this set was developed. Mirage was developed from 1992 through 1995. It's a very long time, by a group of playtesters, including Bill Rose, who was the lead design and lead developer on the set, who independently created their own cards and also refused cards from several prior sets. Initially called the Menagerie, Mirage evolved over the years until it was finalized in October 1995, and the African setting was devised by Sue Ann Harkey after the cards had been designed. Lastly, Mirage was one of the first sets that was developed with sealed deck play in mind, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Mirage began the first official block, one large expansion followed by 2 smaller expansions, all tied together through card mechanics and setting. This model became the standard for the concept of block rotation, but more importantly, this set the standard for Magic for 20-ish years. I don't really know officially when blocks stopped, but during my time coming up through the game, you know, you get your big base set in like October, and then you get your supplementary expansion in like February, and then maybe the next one in May, and then like a core set in the summer, and just rinse rotate, baby. We're good to go.
As an older Magic player, and I guess older human being, this is something that I very much miss about Magic.
Same.
First of all, the the block setup gives you a lot of mechanical cohesion. You have the ability to expand upon mechanics. So there isn't this pressure to make sure that deck X, whatever the keyword or creature type is, it doesn't have to be playable out of the box.
Okay.
You can wait a little while and stretch it out instead of having to put everything in one basket like you have to do in the non-block settings. The calendar releases were also very consistent. And so once you kind of got a familiarity for it, it's like, yeah, you have the set coming out in the fall.
Yep.
That's the set one. You have one in February, March, and then one in June or July.
Yep.
And then rotation occurs in standard when the next block releases.
Yep.
It was a very easy calendar to stay on top of.
I think it's taken for granted how simple that was now.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It is. And I'm not saying that there aren't positives to kind of doing it in the more modern way, but as a player at the time, it was very easy for me to sort of grasp onto when is roughly the next set coming out.
Yeah.
And this was a time where the internet wasn't nearly as ubiquitous as it was now. It would be pretty easy to fall out of the communication loop, but with that fairly rigid calendar, it was easy just to sort of remember, oh yeah, it's June. There's probably Weatherlight's coming out soon.
Yep.
Even if I haven't played Magic for a little while, I should, go check it out because I just am familiar with the calendar and I know when it's coming.
Mirage introduced reminder text on cards and some changes to make the cards easier to read, including a slightly expanded text box and frame and more visible power and toughness numbers. Now, you and I have joked quite a bit reading some of the old cards. They were a little wordy. Some cards, I'm thinking mostly of Bronze Tablet right now, just trying to fit all that text onto one card. Quite the silly task, but they were able to accomplish it of sorts. Mirage really did a nice job of starting to tidy up the room. And I think that's one of the nice things about this set is it started to kind of tidy things up a little bit.
It does. Reminder text is a big step forward, and it's something that essentially every physical trading card game has borrowed and uses themselves. It's not exactly the first in terms of explanatory text. You look at some of Magic's early designs, there's for example, Rock Hydra says heads in parentheses in alpha.
Sure.
There are some cards like Shahrazad, for example, where they walk you through some of the nuances of the subgame. You have cards like the Hive that say use, I forget what the exact word was, but tokens or coins or whatever to represent the 1/1 flyers. But we're just talking about ad hoc explanations about how individual cards work. This was the first set that took keywords and mechanics and had reminder text on them. So once you saw it the first time, you kind of knew how the thing worked.
Which, again, I think a very good thing to be doing.
Yes.
Let's see. A weird thing that happened here with Mirage. 5th edition rules were introduced in Mirage, although 5th edition wasn't released until March 97. Remember, this set was released at the back end of 96. To avoid any confusion for anyone who started playing with Mirage, the 5th edition rules were included with Mirage starter decks. Which, again, a little strange. Further, 5th edition rules became the official DCI rules on November 1st, 1996, when Mirage became legal for tournament play, well ahead of the release of 5th edition.
Well, it's not ideal.
We agree.
I would say it makes more intuitive sense to have rule sets like this updated with core sets and not individual blocks, because the core sets are kind of it's a jumping on point and sort of a reset. Okay. It's typically not new stuff going on. And so it makes sense to me to say, yeah, the rules go in when the core set updates occur if we're doing anything like that. That said, if you know for sure you're going to do it and you have the whole thing laid out already, you know what those rules are going to be, there's an argument for getting people acclimated as soon as possible, because that change is coming regardless. And if they have a little bit more time to get used to it, or a little bit more time to seek out answers to questions that might come up, that could be smoother. Not how I would do it in an ideal world. I think it's correct to tie them to the core sets, but I don't think it's some major sin to put it in Mirage once you know what you're going to do.
Well, here is some new terminology from 5th edition rules that were implemented alongside the release of Mirage. First one is combat damage. This was the term now used to refer to damage dealt during damage dealing. All cards that refer to damage in combat, such as fog and gaseous form, now refer to combat damage.
Great change. Saves a lot of text. Super intuitive what it means.
Yep.
Even if you didn't encounter the term before, any Magic player who's roughly familiar with it would correctly guess what combat damage meant.
Generic mana. This term referred to mana required for casting cost, activation cost, etc. that doesn't need to be any specific color. For example, Disenchant was now said to cost 1 white and 1 generic mana.
Did this actually manifest in any of the card text, or is this just a behind the scenes thing?
I think a behind the scenes thing.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
Fine.
Landhome. Landhome described those creatures that depended on having a certain type of land in play to survive and attack. For example, Sea Serpent had Island Home.
A good thing to keyword, because it's quite lengthy to write out what X home means.
Yep.
It's intuitive enough as a word. I don't think you would necessarily get it on first blush what that meant, but it would probably be one of your top 5 guesses.
Okay.
And once someone explains it to you, it's like, oh, that totally makes sense.
Protection. A creature could now have protection from anything, not just from colors.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but it's a thing that exists and it's clear now.
Well, it's a nice bit of the protection rules, as sloppy and not intuitive as they are in certain places, though they do accommodate protection from something other than color pretty easily.
Yep.
So again, it's something where if you're a relatively familiar Magic player, you can guess accurately pretty quickly what is meant by that.
Global and local enchantments. Enchantments that were played on other permanents were referred to as local enchantments. Those that were simply put into play were called global enchantments.
Global enchantments is such a horrible word or term to use, coming off of the heels of Enchant World.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Yeah, this one's not my favorite.
Yeah. The global versus local, I think that eventually just moving to auras to describe local enchantments is just better.
Yeah. We eventually got there.
Yeah.
End of turn. One of the counterintuitive elements of the 4th edition rules was that effects that happened at end of turn occurred before effects that lasted until end of turn wore off. In 5th edition, this procedure was corrected by moving the at end of turn effects to the very end of the turn. So, moving the resolution of such effects out of the end phase removed any need for that phase, so the developers collapsed that phase and healed creatures into a single phase called cleanup, which we still use today. And then note that fast effects were illegal during cleanup just as they were during healed creatures, so the last chance to play fast effects was now discard, and before the player discarded down to 7 cards.
Okay, so I say this as a former Pro Tour player and former designer on Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
I don't know how the end of turn rules work at all. I'll take it as a given that this is an improvement, but I can't really speak to it. It's a complicated game. What do you want me to say? Would you rather me lie?
No, I like you telling the truth.
Yeah,
I like you telling the truth.
I'm not confident I fully understand how the end of turn stuff works. You make a token that has haste and dies at the end of turn. When do you get to go with the next turn versus not?
Sure.
Not really sure.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Some end of turn stuff you just learn from other players when something bad happens to you.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I was playing in a Legacy tournament many, many years ago. I was playing Sneak and Show, and I had Through the Breach in my hand. I was playing against someone with counter spells, and Todd Anderson was watching, and I go on to lose this game, and he goes, "Why didn't you try Through the Breaching at the end of their turn to induce their mana and try to fire it over 2 turns?"
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't know it worked that way.
Oh, yeah.
If someone told me ahead of time, I would have ripped that off, but I didn't know.
Clear end of turn triggers, cast Through the Breach.
Yeah. Didn't know that was a thing.
That's right.
So, it's come up, but still not worth it to me to learn.
The only way I learned it is by having it happen to me.
Yeah,
so
sure.
There you go. Everybody, those are the facts of Mirage. We are underway in what is a fantastic set that we will continue to review. But before we do, we have a flavor and storyline aspect to bring to you right after this. All right, everybody, it is now time for the flavor, the storyline, the lore of Mirage. Now, this one is not going to be as long as Baronson Year. Nothing probably ever will be again. The Baron's still probably getting some business done right now.
Oh,
if we were to go to the castle. Yeah. But this is kind of I would describe Mirage's storyline as a tale as old as time. Someone wants control over a land.
Sure.
Yeah. Mirage envisions the second set in the block, and coming up soon here on the Resleevables, stand apart from the rest of Magic for their tropical African-themed setting in Jamora, and its 3 nations of Femeref, Zhalfir, and Sequata. Jamora is a major supercontinent on Dominaria, so just big land.
Yep.
Okay, cool. The storyline begins with the disappearance of the planeswalker Teferi. Ever heard of him? And the 3 powerful spellcasters who come looking for him. Mangara, who's a human mage on Dominaria, known for his peaceful nature and diplomatic skills. I believe it's pronounced Jor-El.
Yeah, Jor-El or
Jor-El, yeah. One of the oldest Zhalfiran mages on Dominaria. She retreated from civilization and lives in the Manvuli jungle, which, respect. I just want to move to not civilization so bad.
Yeah.
So I totally get it. Which is now part of the self-contained plane of Zhalfir. And then Karavek, a black-aligned human warlock from Dominaria. He was the main antagonist of the Mirage block storyline. So these are your 3 main characters. Their search for Teferi set off the events that would lead to the Mirage War. And the Mirage War was a series of conflicts in northwest Jamura between 4150 and 4195 AR that stems from Karavek's attempts to, of course, conquer the region.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do we know what AR means?
Not a clue.
Yeah.
What do you think it means? I really don't know.
After Riven Turnbull.
Sure.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I don't
that
know.
That could be it. So there's a longer version of this, but I'm going to give you a shorter version of what's basically going on here, which is Teferi was doing a little magic on his isle. So I'm going to read this part to you fine folks at home. Centuries ago, when the land was ruled entirely by the kingdom of Zhalfir, an internal religious dispute led the church to secede. Okay, cool. Though the incident was resolved peacefully, the church created its own province called Femeref, which actually means judgment in their tongue. In time, Femeref grew apart from Zhalfir, aided by the discovery of rich gold deposits that helped establish it as an independent state. Eventually, tales of mineral wealth within Femeref's deep mountains spread to Sequata Empire. The empire annexed the lands bordering Zhalfir and began to mine the mountains, passing the dwarven residents into Femeref. So look, there's gold in those hills.
Yeah.
And somebody wants it.
Yes.
That doesn't belong to them.
Right. It's an African setting.
Yeah.
It's based on real life.
You get it.
Yeah.
The leaders of Femeref happily accepted the new refugees as their skills would increase Femeref's gold yield sustainability. The Zhalfiran nobility was angered by the king's unwillingness to respond to the Sequata invasion of the northern reaches, and this bickering splintered Zhalfir into several independent states. Only the intervention of the returning planeswalker Teferi restored Zhalfir to a state of calm. Teferi was an ancient court mage of Zhalfir, and his name still commanded respect centuries after he departed for other planes. Sadly, Teferi was no diplomat, and after a few decades, he resolved to leave the kingdom to its machinations, whilst he took up residence on a small secluded island to begin a series of magical experiments on Teferi's Isle.
Very nice. In the story, Teferi essentially starts phased out, phases in, phases back out.
That's right. Comes home and is like, this sucks.
I'm out of here.
So he's doing some experiments on Teferi's Isle. He is attempting to manipulate time so that he might overcome the difficulties of magic summoning. He theorized that he could drop creatures in and out of the time stream, causing them to appear and disappear at will, aka phasing, as he labeled it. But his experiments met with limited success. After years of trial and error, Teferi concluded the process was inherently unstable. Random effects constantly occurred. Worse still, Teferi discovered that his early clumsy experiments had damaged the time stream and threatened to unravel that stream across Dominaria if left unattended. It's never a good idea to mess with time.
No.
Every movie, every time someone's like, yo, let's mess with time, goes bad every time. Has never gone well. Hardened by the knowledge of his culpability, Teferi prepared to fix the time stream with a colossal energy burst. Also never a good idea. A dangerous maneuver at best, but his only real hope of repairing the damage. What happened next was truly unexpected. The energy unleashed caused every plant, animal, and building on the island to phase out of existence, leaving just bare rock behind.
Yeah, this is what's called chasing your losses. There's a lot of, well, the only way to undo the harm I've done via the time traveling and phasing is to keep doing it and hoping this time it works.
So the card Teferi's Isle, which is in the set, does have phasing.
Yes.
For a reason. So flavor win. The nations of Jamora knew nothing about any of what Teferi was doing. 3 mages, as I mentioned, perceived subtle ripples in the time stream, took notice. First was Mangara of Corindor. which is a magic card. A mage versed in politics and a great ally of the Quirion elves of the White Woods. Second was Jorial, who lived in a series of palaces erected in her name at the heart of the jungle. And then her influence spread through the animal kingdom beyond to the sentient lizard people. Do you know who they are?
Sentient lizard people. Hold on. Is it the Burning Shield?
No.
Starts
with a V.
Viashino.
Yes. There you go. And through them to the mighty dragons. It was rumored that Jorial was once a great Zalfrin mage who turned her back on that society to build her empire of beasts. Third was Karavek of the Burning Isles, a mage known for his allegiances with many spirits and their allies through Urborg and Bogarden, chiefly the Night Stalkers and the easily manipulated Panther Warriors. The three mages met on the Barren Rock, which was Teferi's Isle. No one could explain the mysterious residual temporal energy, but the three's curiosity was piqued and they agreed to settle in Jamura and keep a close eye on the Isle. So Mangara comes in. Mangara's like, yo, let's keep the peace. So he's over here trying to unite nations, okay? Basically, we want some diplomacy in place. So Mangara's gifts for diplomacy and intimidation encouraged peace agreements within a few short years. When Femeref and Zalfir could not agree on a border, Mangara created a buffer zone near the Yunaro jungle. To police this zone, he summoned a large contingent of Quirion elves. The elves always had a good relationship with Mangara and happily populated this new land. The agreement with Sequata was trickier, but eventually a trade agreement, which Sequata's favorite kind, was created. Within a century, Mangara's harmony created a new age of enlightenment, and the nations began to trust one another. They exchanged ideas and shared their strengths. Even the dwarves and elves were welcome within the cities.
And then?
What? That's the end of the story.
Okay.
Nothing could go wrong. Okay. Karavek was horrified. Karavek had always dreamed of ruling a nation, because of course he does. But the powerful entities of the Burning Isles had ensured that his dreams might never come to fruition. Frustrated by Mangara's success and incapable of believing that Mangara would control Zalfir for any purpose rather than aggression, Karavek began to work on Jorial's fears and her inability to understand the ambitions of humans. At this point, she had lived with animals for several hundred years. Slowly, as Mangara's rule took shape, Karavek was able to draw the reclusive Jorial into the politics of the region. In time, the two mages built covert armies of animals and spirits throughout Jumara.
Cool.
So, naturally, they're working together, even though they're all trying to work together to find Teferi. Karavek waited, occasionally instigating border disputes and basically working behind the scenes to cause disruption. Eventually, the disputes flared and blood accidentally spilled. Within days, civil war seemed imminent. The disruption was all that Karavek needed. He sent dozens of evil spirits into the lands, fanning the flames of old hatred to spark across the borders. Mangara was at a loss and able to control the steadily worsening situation. It was then that Karavek sent a message to Mangara, an offer of assistance in dealing with the troubles. Mangara agreed to meet with Karavek in the Monvuli Delta. Mangara never returned from that encounter. Surprise, surprise. Karavek and Jorial ambushed him, capturing him within an amber prison that now sits in the throne room of one of Jorial's palaces. Many of the Zalfirins believed that Mangara had fled the land, leaving it to civil war. Others believed he died in the Monvuli. So began the dark days of Jamora. Reports increased. You're going to like this part. Reports increased of people mauled by wild cats and of citizens dying in their sleep with expressions of horror, the only clue to the cause of their demise. Farmers began to mysteriously vanish from their fields. The three nations met at a great council. They shared their tales, and the greatest of the storytellers, Hakim Loreweaver, magic card, presented myriad reports from across Jamora. Indeed, something was afoot, and they would have to find a way to put aside their territorial squabbles if they were to deal with these mysterious terrors. It was then that Karavek chose to make his appearance, demanding the surrender of the three nations. Karavek's love of making a grand appearance had blinded him to the fact that the nations had been given an enemy because they couldn't figure out who it was. And he's like, yo, it was me. And so now they know who to try to attack and kill. United against a common foe, the nations of Jamora flatly defied Karavek, stating that they would pay him no fealty. So guess what happens, everybody? I'm going to make it short for you. We're rising up against this guy. Enough is enough. And slowly over time, Jorial, well, they figured out that maybe I teamed up with the wrong guy. Yeah. So over time, there's some wars, some battles rage. Spirit of the Night, hopefully between us, he gets involved.
Yes.
Excuse me. It gets involved. Kill some things, whatever. Over time, Jorial realizes I've partnered up with the wrong person. I need to get Mangara out of this prison. But before any of this happens, the only way that I can do this, because I'm not strong enough to stop Karavek, we got to dial up Teferi.
Yes.
We got to get Teferi back out here. So eventually Teferi makes his way through some summonings and some conversations, and Joriel's got some magic at work here. We get Teferi to come back. Teferi is now here to kind of help with assisting and defeating Karavek. Karavek and Teferi meet, and Karavek's like, I'm going to kick your ass. Doesn't even get close. Gets absolutely destroyed by Teferi. And then over time, Joriel basically admits to Teferi, here's what I did. I did some bad things. I'm really sorry. Teferi saves the day. They get Mangara out of the prison, and then problem solved.
Sounds like everything is more or less fine.
That's the Mirage War. This is, like I said, a tale as old as time.
Yes.
Someone wants control of the land. Why does everyone always want control of the land?
Also, one of the main characters realizes at some point they backed the wrong horse and tries to sort of half-heartedly make amends with the other side once it's clear that you're going to be taking the L otherwise.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the same story every time. It's like, you know what? This is a good idea. We should work together. This is a horrible idea. We should not work together. It's too late. It's too late. I've made a grand error. This person's in charge of everything. How can I get out of this? Hopefully you've got a better friend who's more powerful. I do, sort of. But Teferi doesn't really want to get involved.
No.
But gets involved. Smushes them. What I like about this is a couple of things. Most notably, I really think they've done a fantastic job in the most recent handful of sets of taking a story and incorporating it into the cards.
Yes.
I think that's one of my favorite things. Like, it wasn't happening in the early stages of Magic. It's starting to really happen now with a lot of the cards and sets, not just like some, it's like a lot of them now, like a Teferi's Isle having phasing, a bunch of cards that are referenced with like the city names or like the lands and everything like that. Like, it's all kind of becoming one big thing.
Amber Prison is a card in the set. Like, there is
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's just a story being told through the cards, but not in a way that's obtrusive.
Yeah.
I think Mirage does this really nice job of, if you kind of want to just tune out of the story, you can.
Okay.
It's not, in terms of just the names and the art and the flavor text, it's not really on top of the entire experience, but it's there if you look for it.
Yeah. And I think that's a really cool thing that started happening in alliances. We see it happening here. And then, of course, future sets, it just gets better and better.
Yeah.
Which is really, really cool. So that is your flavor and storyline without dragging on too long. And the reason for that is because, boy, do we got some mechanics and cycles to go over. But before we get to those cycles and mechanics, we take a short break. See you in a sec. All right, everybody, we are back for the mechanics of Mirage. That's not how anything is said, but I felt like saying it that way. Sure. Mirage introduced two mechanics. One is flanking. Two is phasing. I'm not sure which one of these is better than the other. I'm going to be very curious your take.
They're both good and bad in different ways.
I'll say this. You know how you just admitted earlier in the show that you don't really know how EOT works? Yeah. Phasing?
Well, we're going to talk about that.
I bet you know. Not me.
I do, but that's beside the point.
Okay, great. Let's start with flanking, the easier of the two. It's a keyword ability that gives creatures that block a creature with flanking -1/-1 unless the blocker also has flanking, in which case that does not happen. Flanking was frequently used to make 2/2 creatures for 3 mana worthwhile, with two exceptions: Sidewinder, Sliver, and Old Fogey. Old Fogey is especially lame, by the way. All flanking creatures are either knights on horseback or centaurs. They have a tactical height advantage and the added mobility to swing around the enemy and attack in the flanks. And the name is inspired by the effective military tactics. So, flavor win, yes.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the keyword ability, your thoughts?
Not a huge fan.
Okay.
To start off with, I don't like the name. I know that's kind of secondary to this, but flanking is a thing that occurs when some person or unit is moving and attacking, and another unit is largely stationary. It's a little dissonant in Magic when you have to declare blocks for then to, it's like, oh, I was actually flanking you. You just had no idea.
Sure.
If you were talking about a game with direct attacking, like Hearthstone, for example, where, my thing attacks your thing, flanking as a name is great. It's just a little off message for how the mechanic works.
Okay.
It is a little bit kind of weirdly mathy. Like you do kind of have to sit down and especially when it involves flanking and the possibility of double blocking, it just takes a beat to register what's going on for something that should be fairly simple. And I guess the upside of it is I do appreciate here's a different form of evasion. You know, Magic has a game engine issue where if we're just kind of playing stuff, the game bogs down pretty quickly.
Yep.
And things that allow attackers to continue to proceed through contested boards is a good thing. But flanking doesn't even really do a great job of that because your 2/2 flanking can't attack past my 4/4.
Yeah.
Whereas your 2/2 flyer, my 4/4 doesn't have flying.
Yeah, attack right over it.
You attack right over it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of messy and not even the smoothest thing to play with for not that much mechanical upside. I do appreciate the consistency, at least, of we're going to do this on knights, and the art really conveys, like Suata Lancer is a really good example of this, of the character is on horseback with a spear, like charging down, you know, or a javelin or something, charging. It does do a pretty good job of conveying what the thing is supposed to be. And a lot of the art does a good job of communicating something. But I think it's a lot of headache for not that much upside.
Well, here's the thing about flanking. There's not a lot of it in the set.
No.
So there are 5, 10, 11 cards of flanking. It's found in all colors. Is flanking over the course of Magic history, but it's primarily a white and red ability. So white has 5 cards of flanking. There's Femeref Knight, Matenda Herder, Sidar Jabari, Zalfarin Commander, and Zalfarin Knight. P.S. These cards are weird to pronounce. I'm doing my best. Blue, nothing. Black has Cadaverous Knight. Red has Burning Shield Ascari, Searing Spear Ascari. How did you say that? Suata?
I always heard Suata.
Okay. So I said Sequata.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know which one's right.
I don't know. I had Suata Lancer when I was a kid.
They're fake words. Suata Lancer it is. And then Telam Tor.
Yeah.
And then lastly in green
alongside his feared darts.
Yeah. And then last is in green. There is Jor-El Centaur.
Oh yeah.
Look out for the darts.
You better.
So
slow and steady.
That's everything that is flanking. Now let's get to phasing, which having some difficulty here. Maybe you can smooth it out a little bit. It's a keyword ability where permanents may phase out. Great. Causing them to be treated as if they don't exist until they automatically phase back in on their next untap step. This can be a protective action or a means to temporarily disable an opponent's permanence. When a permanent is phased out, it's treated as though it doesn't exist. A phased out permanent can't affect or be affected by anything that doesn't specifically mention phased out permanents. Unlike similar concepts like flickering a permanent, a phased out permanent remains the same object and so retains counters, attachments, and choices made during the life of the object. When permanents phase, they do not change zones or leave the battlefield, so no enters the battlefield or leaves the battlefield triggered abilities trigger, and any auras, equipment, or if you play with fortifications attached to that permanent phase out with it. Before I get to the number of cards that are in phasing or any of those things, okay, so let me just take Teferi's Isle here.
Okay.
All right, it's this land, taps for 2 blue, and it has phasing.
And there's the battlefield tap.
Okay, so I play Teferi's Isle.
I'm with you so far.
All right. And there's the battlefield tapped.
Right. Let's assume no Amulet of Vigor. We're just playing it clean.
Okay. All right, so now you take your turn.
Okay.
All right, now I'm going to go take my turn. I untap. Is it in play?
Well, that's so the untap is like an automatic thing that occurs that the active phasing gets collapsed into.
Yeah, okay.
So what happens is you untap. Part of the untapping is phasing out any permanent in play with phasing.
Okay.
And now we're in your upkeep. Teferi Isle, nowhere to be seen.
Gone. Okay, got it. So now I take my turn. I don't have the Isle.
Right.
Okay. And so now I do whatever I'm going to do. I pass back to you.
Okay.
You take your turn. You pass back to me. It phases in.
Right.
Untapped.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. So it takes a little while to actually get to use.
Yeah, it's a great question to test someone's. I'm glad you brought up this example specifically.
Okay.
To test someone's knowledge of phasing, which is how long does it take before I can tap onto various isle?
Pretty much. Because like I kept looking at it today and I was like, I'm pretty sure I know how this works, and this card's really not good. But okay, so there's it's like a land on suspend for a while.
And then it's back on suspend.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Got it. So the Breezekeeper.
Well, also, how does enters the battlefield? Okay, so I guess that's answered by the enters and leaves the battlefield is not a concept as it exists with phasing.
Yeah, no,
but it's still confusing. You just have to know the rules.
Yeah, so this is the thing I wanted to get to with phasing, which is one, I'm curious how much it confused you and your friends when you were playing with it, if at all. I mean, I know that, you mentioned the story with Eugene and drafting and Breezekeeper and everything, and it sounds like Eugene understood how it worked.
Yeah.
But did this come up where you were playing games against people you didn't know, and it's just like, oh yeah, that's not how phasing works. Here's how it actually works. And because look, this could be a mess if you're new to card games or you're young trying to figure out how this works. Like, I'm not even 100% positive now, and I'm playing this game for almost 30 years.
It definitely came up at the local store. A mitigating factor in all of this was, by and large, the phasing cards were not that good.
Yep.
So it wasn't our casual tournament Friday night scene. It wasn't like there was a lot of phasing going around.
Okay.
But if you were just playing pickup games at the store, yeah, people just didn't really know how it worked.
Okay. There are 8 cards with phasing. Phasing is primarily in blue, and then I'll get to your opinion on, there are 10 cards with phasing, not 8. 8 of them are in blue, though. Cloak of Invisibility, Merfolk Raiders, Sandbar Crocodile, Shimmer, Tanawa, Teferi's Curse, Teferi's Drake, Teferi's Imp, Teferi's Isle, the aforementioned land, and then Warping Worm. So, your thoughts on phasing?
So that meme, what's your opinion about something that gets everyone doing this? Well, like the swords pointing at one Disney character or whatever.
Yeah, I've seen that online.
So one of my game designer versions of this is I kind of like phasing.
Okay.
So here's what I like about phasing.
Okay.
I am generally a really big fan of mechanics that are sort of in the space of you play it as it is, and it's pretty straightforward what the deal you're making is, and you can just play with the card as it's kind of written, but with some exploration, you might be able to do more. For example, Breezekeeper. Okay, so I get a 4/4 flyer for 4 that I kind of have access to every other turn. Okay, great, cool. That could be a card that could be useful or above rate or whatever. Oh, but if I play with Wrath of God, I phase out my Breezekeeper, Wrath. Next turn, Breezekeeper comes back and I'm dealing. I am a big fan of mechanics like that. My issue with phasing is it is really complicated and sort of not compatible with the rules on a foundational level. And you can tell because there's all these carve outs for phasing that just apply to phasing. Like, no, it doesn't trigger enters the battlefield or leaves the battlefield. It's like, why? It's like, that's a rule of phasing. No, enchantments stay on and equipment stays on. Why? Because that's just a rule of phasing. It's not any intuitive way to be able to figure out what's going on. And there are mechanics that I'm critical of where it kind of works on its own, but yeah, with this second or third card, now what happens? Or this mechanic with this peculiar rare, how does this resolve? I think it can still be worth doing cards like that, even when there is or mechanics like that, even when there's a cost in sort of the second and third order interactions and how do these things resolve.
Yep.
Phasing is complicated on its own.
Sure. Yeah, I would agree.
Like, for example, is a card that's phased out counted as being exiled?
I would guess no.
I would also guess no, but I wouldn't bet my life on it.
Yep. Okay.
What about the equipment Nora's on it?
Well, so are those? You're asking if those are
can it count as exiled?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
For like wish considerations or whatever.
Okay. Well, they are phased out.
Yes.
But
again,
yeah. What does that exactly mean? Okay.
Yeah. Even questions around, like, I attacked with my creature, it then phases out, then it phases back in. Is it untapped? Like, was it ever around during its untapped moment in any of these iterations? It's not intuitive at all, and you just have to memorize what the rules of phasing are. That to me is a gigantic black eye, and a reason not to do this and why Magic has done very little phasing over the years since doing this. But the baseline conceit of it, it's on and off. I get it every other turn. I am fond of that. I think there's like good design space there, but the rules package is just too intense for me.
Okay. Mirage includes more multicolored cards than any set between Legends and Invasion, and the first enemy color cards for all pairs except for black and green, because black and green had a card in it from the dark.
The Dark Heart of the Woods.
There you go.
Yeah.
There are 2 of each. So there's 2 black green cards, Cadaverous Bloom and Grim Feast. There's 2 white-black cards, Circle of Despair and Purgatory. Blue-red has Emberwild Caliph and Frenetic Efreet.
Mm-hmm.
White-red has Energy Bolt and Reflect Damage, and blue-green has Malignant Growth and Warping Worm.
Yes.
Warping Worm.
Warping Worm.
There we go. Mirage also includes many creatures with the Knight creature type, all with flanking and an activated ability like the aforementioned Cadaverous Knight and Teferi's Honor Guard. But more importantly, Mirage introduced some new creature types.
Okay.
Now, do you actually want to try to play?
I'll give it a shot. I wanna like keep the option of tapping out if I'm just doing too badly.
Okay, you can tap out at any point.
Okay.
Any point, I'll allow it. John, our editor, you can start the clock or whatever it is that you do. Ancestor later changed to Cleric.
Forgotten Ancestor?
No.
Don't know.
Auspicious Ancestor.
Gotcha.
Brushwag.
It's Brushwag.
That's correct. Cyclops.
A Kundu Cyclops?
That is correct.
Dealer.
All right. Griffin, there are 4. You only need to get 1.
Griffin Canyon?
No.
Don't have it.
Okay, you want a hint?
Yeah.
It is Friends of the Cyclops you just mentioned.
A Kundu Griffin.
That is correct.
Okay.
Along with Matenda Griffin, Termico Griffin, and Unyaro Griffin.
Okay.
Just various griffins in their homes. Hyena.
Gibbering Hyena?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
Is that actually correct?
Well, it's either Gibbering. Is that gibbering or gibbering?
Yeah.
Is that gibbering?
Wow.
Yeah, you got
I'm
that right.
shocked. That was pretty much a dark shot.
All right. Mantis later changed to insect.
Praying mantis.
No.
Giant mantis.
Okay, I knew you were going to get it wrong.
Yeah.
I knew it. Okay. Martyr later changed to cleric.
Don't know.
Vigilant Martyr.
Okay.
Meerkat later changed to mongoose.
Karu Meerkat.
Okay, so I've never even seen that card before.
2/1 Pro Blue, green and colorless.
Have you played with that or something?
Obviously, read a book.
Okay. All right.
2/1 Pro Blue is like that's
a real card.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's a real card.
Eventually, unfortunately, Karu Meerkats didn't have a very long shelf life because the next set had River Boa, which was also good against blue, but also good against. Well, oh yeah, Iron. The art's great. It's just a little meerkat.
I've never seen that card before.
Family of meerkats looking up.
Minion.
I don't know.
Shaku's minion.
Okay.
Pirate.
Oh no. The Reef Pirates.
Incorrect.
I don't know.
I don't know how to say this word, so I'm going to give it the old college try here. Kukamissa.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah. Kukemssa.
Yeah.
Pirates. Rhino.
Crashing Rhino.
Close enough. Crash of Rhinos.
Crash of Rhinos.
Close enough. Scout. There are 2.
Zalfir Scout.
No, good try.
Oh.
Femeref Scouts.
Okay.
And then Goblin Scouts. Wildcat later changed to cat.
Wildcat later changed to cat.
Lives in a family alongside orangutan.
I don't know.
Utabi Wildcats.
Oh, okay.
Viashino.
Viashino Emissary.
Viashino Warrior.
Warrior.
All right, last one. Wyvern later changed to Drake.
Cerulean Wyvern?
That's correct. Okay.
Not too bad. I gotta say, not a bad effort.
That wasn't bad. There's not that many. I would have gotten 1.
Mm-hmm.
I would have gotten Brushwag.
Yeah,
That's the only one I've gotten. So,
that's something of a layup.
yeah. Certain Mirage cards had additional creature types in Italian, Spanish, and German. Shaku Endbringer was also a vampire, and Sidar Jabari was also a knight. This situation was corrected by successive Oracle announcements and everyone's favorite thing here on this show, the Grand Creature Type update.
Boo.
Yeah, we boo that right out of here.
Boo.
So, everybody, those are the mechanics of Mirage. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we've got to get into 13 different cycles here on the Resleevables. All right, everybody, we are back for the cycles of Mirage. As I mentioned before the break, there are 13 of these to go through, and we're going to start with the charms. These were common instants that cost a single mana and let you choose one of 3 possible effects. Are you familiar with the 5?
Sort of. I believe there was also a cycle in Visions.
That's definitely correct.
And so I get which ones are confused from the set to set.
So Ivory Charm, Sapphire Charm, Ebony, Chaos, and Seeding Charm.
Yep.
And these are, again, single mana, let you do some stuff.
These rule.
Okay.
A huge step forward, I think, in Magic design this cycle. Very appealing.
Okay.
It does tap into that sort of cantrip space flavor-wise of doing something sort of more lighthearted and whimsical and whatever. Great for color pie definition.
Yep.
And it's actually really great step forward was the gold charms, because that gave you the architecture, fast forwarding to Ravnica, of color A, color B, and then what do they share?
Yeah.
A lot of the charms have that structure, which this laid the foundation for. I also really appreciate cards that what they're giving you is flexibility and options, but you do have to make do with the thing. It's not cycling where if it's bad, you just get rid of it.
Oh, I love that about these.
Yeah, it's awesome that, there's a lot of stuff going on with these. People played these cards in competitive decks back in the day, but it isn't guaranteed to be useful. Like sometimes it is not the card that you want, but it is flexible enough that there's typically always something you can be doing with it.
I also greatly enjoy that on almost every charm, certainly at the beginning, like they're not overpowered.
Right.
And none of the modes are overpowered, but like as a package, it might be worth a card.
Yeah.
And flexibility is really nice.
And I like that they're 1 minute instants. It's just very easy to talk yourself. It's a useful thing to do on the cheap. Great.
That's right. Let's go to the diamonds. Uncommon artifacts that cost 2 mana. Enter the battlefield tapped and produce 1 mana of the appropriate color when tapped. This cycle was later reprinted in 6th edition, 7th edition, Commander 2014, and Commander Legends. Do you think you can name these?
There is Charcoal Diamond.
That's 1.
Fire Diamond.
2.
Moss Diamond.
3. You're missing white and blue.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to pull it up. Marble Diamond.
4.
And Sky Diamond.
That's 5. Bang. These are super simple designs that I loved Fire Diamond when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Thought it was really cool.
I think I think there's like a lot of awesome stuff going on here. People still had an appetite for moxes, even though they were too much.
Yep.
This kind of gives you the fixed mox experience. I also really appreciate that, enters the battlefield tapped is just a development knob. Part of it is power level, and part of it is it's kind of nice to make extra, mana sources come into play tapped. So you're not doing the math of the rebate that I get from playing the thing. But there is a tone here of, you've gone mining. You pull this out of the earth. It takes a little time for it to activate or for you to apply your magic.
Yep.
So I think that even though I would guess it's largely a mechanical thing, the story here is not a 0. You can tell of, I dug this charcoal out of the ground and I need a little time and energy to turn it into like a magical item.
It's a good story.
Yeah.
Let's go to the dragons. Rare 4/4 dragon creatures that have a mana cost of 4 and then 2 of the colored mana symbols. So 4 white, white, 4 blue, blue, so on and so forth. Pearl dragon, mist dragon, catacomb dragon, volcanic dragon, and canopy dragon. Dragons are cool. People like dragons.
Yeah, these were. This is a really cool cycle. It's a little unfortunate that these were, even by the standards of the time, not particularly good as
Yep.
far as 6 mana goes.
Yep.
But it's still sweet to give people dragons. And, I also appreciate the color pie sort of justification going on here. Certain colors typically don't get flying or don't get very much of it. But if the story's right, if the creature type is right, if you're doing it infrequently, if you're doing it at a high rarity, you can get away with putting certain flying into certain colors. And I would argue these sort of lay the foundation for the Kamigawa dragons in a certain way.
Okay.
Which is, it's kind of weird to give green a big flyer. That's not typically what they do. But as a cycle of dragons, it's high rarity. There's enough going on there where you give it a pass.
Okay. All right. One thing I do like is Canopy Dragon, which is 6 mana 4/4 trample, but you can give it flying.
Mm-hmm.
But to give it flying, it has a loose trample.
Yes.
I just think that's cool because, as you mentioned, green doesn't get a big flyer.
Yeah, it's either stomping around on the ground or it's flying.
Yeah.
There's a good D&D story there.
Yeah, I like that a lot. We'll go to the Guild Mages now. These are common 1/1 wizard creatures that cost a single mana and have 2 activated abilities, each with the cost of tap and an allied mana. There's Civic Guild Mage, Shaper Guild Mage, Shadow Guild Mage, Armorer Guild Mage, and Granger Guild Mage. I feel like I know you well enough to know that you think these are cool.
These are very cool.
Yeah.
I am not a big fan of the red ability that appears on Shadow and Granger Guild Mage. I think it's just too intense on a 1 mana creature, but the spirit of the cycle is spectacular.
Sure. I've always been a Guild Mage fan, especially these simplistic ones back in the day of like 1 mana, 1/1, 2 abilities. Again, not overpowered. I do agree with you. The Granger Guild Mage red ability could be seen as overpowered. Just shooting down like elves and birds.
People
of
played
stuff.
people played Shadow and Granger and Constructed.
Shadow's the black one.
Yeah, but the activated abilities are the same across the colors.
Okay, got it.
So the red ability is the same on Shadow and Granger.
Got it.
This cycle was also, I would argue, the inspiration, like very directly, for the Apprentice cycle in Invasion.
Yep.
Which was also all 1 mana 1/1s with activated abilities, and the activated ability is shared by color. So both the white ones tap, for example.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's move on to these flash enchantments. These are common aura enchantments, or would we call these local enchantments? Boy, that's
local
not
news.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a converted mana cost of 2 and flash, but are sacrificed at the beginning of the next cleanup step if cast any time a sorcery couldn't have been cast. The 5 cards in question are Ward of Lights, Soar, Grave Servitude, Lightning Reflexes, and Armor of Thrones. The one I'm most familiar with is Lightning Reflexes. So to give everybody an idea of how these cards work, Lightning Reflexes cost 1 and a red. Enchant creature. You may choose to play Lightning Reflexes as an instant. If you do, bury it at end of turn. Enchanted creature gets +1/+0 and gains first strike. So a little bit of a buffer, a little bit of help if you want to use it that way, or you can just play it on your main phase and then it's there forever.
Fine. This is Magic has done a bunch of similar things to this.
Yeah.
It is a little laborious for how much gameplay is really there, but it's a cool thing to do, fill out a file.
Let's go on to the Mirage boons. Each of these cards has a small mana value and an effect involving the number 3. This cycle is loosely linked to the boon cycle in Alpha and Ice Age, including 2 reprints and 3 new cards. Lightning Bolt, Giant Growth, and the overpowered Ancestral Recall, they're out of here. The 5 cards in question: Healing Salve, Dream Catch, Dark Ritual, Incinerate, and Afaya Grove. What does that do?
I don't even know if I know that one by name.
1 and a green enchantment. If Fire Grove comes into play with 3+1/+1 counters on it, okay, we're fulfilling the number 3. During your upkeep, put 1 of these counters on target creature. If this Grove thing has none of these counters on it, bury it.
Okay.
Worse than Giant Growth, probably. So, of course, the boon cycle is Healing Salve. The normal one is Healing Salve, Ancestral Recall, Dark Ritual, Lightning Bolt, Giant Growth. They tried to fix it in Ice Age, and now this is kind of another attempt.
Yeah, you just keep on removing the power level outliers, except for Dark Ritual.
Yeah,
just it gets a pass until the 2000s.
Yeah, why does this just keep coming back?
I don't know. Someone must have felt this was a good thing to balance the game around.
Okay.
And I do appreciate it. Does feel very black. Like, here is this temporary burst of mana, in contrast to green, which does a lot more slow growing, sustainable kind of mana development.
Yes.
But also, like, come on, can we stop doing this? Necropotence was already in people's decks. Like, it wasn't like at this point people didn't know.
Sure.
It was known.
Sure.
You can just pump the brakes on it. Nope. Because you know what? You know what Tempest had? The next block after this? Dark Ritual. And Urza's Saga.
I know it's
and
Urza's
Mercadian Mask.
It was in yeah.
They just kept firing
okay,
it.
so the fact that it's in Mask is really weird because that's like the power down Magic set.
Right.
And it's like, well, we got to give it a little juice.
It's not even good. It's not even really that good with Mercenaries. There's there's really not a lot to do with it.
We move on to some enemy color hosers here. These are uncommon spells that hamper both enemy colors. We've got Mangara's Equity, Mind Harness, Reign of Terror, Reign of Chaos, and Roots of Life. And because I love going over enemy color hosers, because Magic, much like with Dark Ritual, they just felt like they had to keep doing this for some reason. Mangara's Equity. Let's see if I can find this one here first. 1 white enchantment. When you play Mangara's Equity, choose black or red. During your upkeep, pay 1 and a white or bury Mangara's Equity. For each 1 damage a creature of the chosen color deals to you or a white creature you control, Mangara's Equity deals 1 damage to that creature. It's a pretty tame hoser.
Well, one of these is not tame. One of these is quietly one of the most messed up cards of all time.
So I know it's the next one. I know it's Mind Harness.
Mind Harness is so screwed up.
Yeah. So Mind Harness is single blue. Play only on a red or green creature. Cumulative upkeep of 1. That's mine. Just single mana control
mana control magic. Like, could you imagine you just like do that to someone's questing beast? It's like, it's over.
Yeah, I can pay the upkeep, so I'm good.
I really detest, by the way, before we get too far, that white design.
Yeah.
It's just another one in Magic's early storied history of, yes, this enchantment has an upkeep cost of 2 mana, and it's there to punish red and black, which cannot kill it. It's like, what?
Sure.
What's the point of this? What is the point of this? If you made it a cumulative upkeep design, it's like, okay, it's there for a bit and then it goes away.
And the game continues.
Right, yeah. This is just like, I pay 2 white to keep conversion in play, preventing you from casting anything. This one is at least super modest, so it's kind of whatever.
Reign of Terror is the black one, 3BB, sorcery. Bury all white creatures or bury all green creatures. Lose 2 life for each creature put into the graveyard this way. Okay.
It's just not that good.
Yeah.
And so it's whatever.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. That's 5 mana. It's cost a lot. You take some damage to do it. So, okay,
right.
Sure. Reign of Chaos. This is the red one. Let's find you real quick. 2 RR. Destroy target planes and target white creature, or destroy target island and target blue creature. Okay.
Extremely messed up.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, just, it didn't really show up. There was kind of better Stone Rain type of options. If that was the thing you're going to do. If you put that card into 2023 and people were playing with blue or white creatures, it would be super messed up.
That'd be a really good card now.
Really messed up.
And then Roots of Life, 1 GG enchantment. When you play Roots of Life, choose islands or swamps. Whenever a land of the chosen type that target opponent controls becomes tapped, gain a life. Okay, that card sucks.
Yeah, as your control opponent is milling you out, you're healing.
Countering all your spells. I'm at 26. I will cast a big green creature. Counter spell. You're at 28.
Yeah, that card sort of misses the plot a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, we've got some counterclockwise color hosers. That's a mouthful. Uncommon spells that hamper 1 enemy color. So the white one hampers red, which hampers blue, which hampers green, which hampers black, which hampers white. There is Unvaro Griffin, Cerulean Wyvern, Soul Rend, Sirocco, and Decomposition. Okay, so let me give you an example here. I'm going to go to Decomposition. Give green a little bit of love here. 1 and a green, play only on a black creature. Okay. Enchanted creature gains cumulative upkeep 1 life. If enchanted creature is put into a graveyard, its controller loses 2 life. Okay.
Okay.
That's
not a green card, but fine, whatever.
It's not a green card at all.
No.
Yeah, okay. I mean, like, it's a green card in name.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's about it.
I think the justification for that is if you're putting it on a black creature, it's a super black penalty for the black creature to have.
Yeah.
But it's just not a green card.
Sirocco is 1 and a red instant. Target player reveals his or her hand to all players. For each blue interrupt card that player holds, he or she pays 4 life or discards that card.
Again,
It doesn't feel like a red card.
Just not a red card.
Yeah, it feels more like a black card. I guess I'll say it doesn't feel like a red card. I don't know exactly what it feels like. Okay, Soul Rend, which is black. Let's find you. Okay, 1 in a black instant. Bury target creature if it's white. Draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. Okay, that feels like a black card.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's
fine.
That's
Execute.
That's execute. Yeah, it's not slay. It's execute. Okay. We got a blue one here. The Wyvern. We've seen this one a couple of times in the show already. This one is 5's a lot. 4 and a green, 3/3 flying, pro green. Okay, that's a hate card.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and then Yuvaro Griffin. If this white card's probably, I'm just guessing it's not very good. Okay, here it is. 3 and a white, 2/2 flyer. Sacrifice this Griffin. Counter target red spell that assigns damage to you or a creature you control. Play its abilities and interrupt.
That's at least a white card.
I agree with that.
It at least passes the color pie test.
I agree with that.
Super modest, whatever. Just not a very good Burton Forge Tender type of thing. Whatever.
All right, we got clockwise enemy boosters. Uncommon spells. It's a weird name for a cycle. Uncommon spells with the basic effect that is boosted if the target has an enemy color. So the 5 cards: Shadowbane, Aetherwell, Caravex Hex, Cinder Cloud, and Tropical Storm. So I'm going to just go over Shadowbane. I'm only going to go over one of this cycle. So where you at, Shadowbane? Okay, so 1 in a white instant. Prevent all damage to you or a creature you control from any one source. If that source is black, gain 1 life for each 1 damage prevented this way. Okay, that's a very
sure. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. All right, sure. So this is just another cycle of, I mean, look, I'll say this. They have dialed back the hate.
Yeah, with the exception of the egregious Mind Harness. This is a very modest set of cards by the standards of the time.
I will say, in regards to specifically Mind Harness, when people are always like, blue gets the best of everything. In that case, it's true.
Well, if you go back in the day, there's just a recurring thing that goes on where it's, okay, what's green's color hoser against blue and black? And it's just like a creature with Swamp Walk.
Yeah, sure.
And what do black and blue get against green? It's like
Perish.
1 mana control magic, Perish. The Plague Wind in this set, that's not very good, but it's still Plague Wind.
Yep.
There's just a lot of, well, green is going to get this Pale Bear, and it's going to just, what are you possibly going to do about that?
Yeah, no way to beat that.
Versus just 1 mana control magic is just like, come on. Could you just do a bounce? Could you just do like bounce a creature and draw a card at a good rate or something? Does it have to be like this?
Let's go with some clockwise protection creatures. These are uncommon creatures with either protection or an ability that protects them from one color. So the white one is safe against black, the black one's safe against green, so on and so forth. 5 cards are Malise Spirit, Sequata Firewalker.
Oh, a dealer.
Barbed Back Worm, Wildfire Emissary.
Dealer.
We'll get to that one in a second. And then Karoo Meerkat.
Dealer.
Which you've also gone. You know what? I'm going to go over all 5 in this cycle. So let's see what Malise Spirit does. 5 mana, 3/3 flying protection from black. It's an angel and probably between us. Okay, that one's not that good. White normally got the short end of the stick. Let's take a look at the blue one here, the Firewalker.
Yeah.
Okay, so 1 blue, 0/1 summon wizard. Sequata Firewalker cannot be the target of red spells or effects. Okay, so basically pro red. And then tap, deal 1 damage to our creature or player. Yeah, that's a good card.
Game.
That's a good card.
Game.
Okay. Caravex Hex. This is a black. I want to make sure I'm in the right area. Nope. Barbed Back Worm. My best guess is this one's not that good. Okay, 5 mana, 4/3 worm. Pay a black. Target green creature blocking Barkback Worm gets -1/-1 till end turn. What if I just take 4?
Right.
What if I just do that instead? Wildfire Emissary. All right, so I know this one. I have to look it up. 4 mana, 2/4. Pro white. You can pay 1 in a red to give it +1 +2/+0.
+1/+0.
+1/+0. All right, explain to the people why this was good.
Certified Dealer. One of the first cards in Magic that showed up because it was a surgical metagame piece.
Yes.
A lot of Magic back in the day is just, yeah, you play with Ancestral Recall because, you know, drawing 3 for a mana is pretty good. Wildfire Emissary. What are the removal spells people play? Swords of Plowshares, Lightning Bolt. Good luck. Good luck. This card, though very modest, was an important tournament piece at the time.
I remember seeing this in like the tournament winning decks.
Yeah.
Very much remember that and thought it was a really cool card.
Good luck.
And like many cards in this set, has rad artwork.
Yeah.
And then your Meerkat 2/1 Pro Blue. Or is it Meerkat?
What?
Or Meerkat. I had it right.
Meerkat. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, cool card.
Cool card.
Multicolored hosers, uncommon multicolored spells that gain an advantage from their mutual enemy color. All right, so I've got these are some gold cards here. So quick little doozy over here. We're gonna start with Haze Rider Drake. Well, here are the 5, so we can bring up on screen. Haze Rider Drake, Haunting Apparition. Why can't I say this word? Skaku's minion.
Skaku's.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, whatever.
Wind Reaper Falcon and Radiant Essence. All right, let's go to the Haze Rider Drake. Take a look at this. 4 mana 2/3 flying pro red.
Game.
Not the game continues.
Game.
Yeah. Haunting Apparition. 1 blue black. Oh god. I hate every time I run into a card like this. 1+ star, 2 toughness.
Yeah, awesome.
Flying Haunting Apparition has power equal to 1+ the number of green creature cards in target opponent's graveyard. Of course it does. The minion. Shaku's. I think it's Shaku. Yeah, Shaku's minion. 1 black, red, 2/2. You can pay a black and a red and tap it to deal 2 damage to target white creature.
Pretty messed up.
Yeah.
Pretty messed up card.
It's actually, I mean, you better swords it, I guess.
Yeah.
Wind Reaper Falcon. This is a red-green card. Oh, right, this thing. We looked at this at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
3 mana 1/1 flying pro blue.
Yeah. Good luck with your mind harness.
I'm
just gonna be here dealing.
Yeah, I'm gonna peck you to death. And then Radiant Essence. It's a green-white card, so you know it's not good. So let's take a look ski here real quick. 1 green-white, 2/3. As long as target opponent controls any black permanents, Radiant Essence gets +1/+2, so it becomes a 3/5 for 3 if they control any black permanent. Okay, kill it.
That's at least like fine. So like 1/1 flying for 3 mana is not fine.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. All right, allied colored X spells. These are uncommon non-permanents that cost X plus each color. And those are allied. So Prismatic Boon alongside Sealed Fate, Caravex Purge, Savage Twister, and Vitalizing Cascade. So the boon is X white blue. Instant, X target creatures gain protection from a single color of your choice alone turn. That's actually kind of a cool card.
Sure.
So okay, I'll give that a win. Sealed Fate. This is a blue-black card with X sorcery. Look at the top X cards of target opponent's library. Remove 1 of those cards from the game and put the rest back on top of that player's library in any order. Not great. Let's go to Caravex Purge. Caravex is going to get some spotlight on this show. We've got X black red. Destroy target creature with casting cost equal to X. If that creature is put into the graveyard in this way, Caravex Purge deals to the creature's controller an amount of damage equal to the creature's power. Okay, cool.
It's just so bad. I'm sorry.
What's wrong?
The X spell that's deal damage, and if the creature dies, they take damage equal to not X, but some other number.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Really taking the wind out of my sails.
Savage Twister, do the twist.
Great.
X, red, green. Savage Twister deals X damage to each creature. And then Vitalizing Cascade. I'm pretty sure this is just gain life. Oh, it's okay. So X, green, white, instant, gain X +3 life. There you go. X spells are cool.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And these are gold X spells. Last cycle, but not the least cycle. Fetch lands. Uncommon lands, that enter the battlefield tapped and can be tapped and sacrificed to fetch a land with 1 of 2 basic land types associated with allied colors from your library. Do you know all 5?
I don't know if I know all 5, but I want to put it out there that as much as I have praised this set's creative work, and I do think it is spectacular, this might be the laziest named cycle in Magic's history. All right.
Okay.
Bad River.
It's bad.
Is it Rocky Tar Pit?
Do you have 2?
Mountain Valley.
You have 3.
What am I missing here?
You're missing white, blue, and you're missing white, blue,
Grasslands.
That's 4.
And the white blue one probably saw the most play. Well, I don't have it. Is it like Flat Lake?
That is so close.
Really?
Floodplain. That is so close.
It has the word plane in it.
Yeah, that's right.
That's already the name of one of the lands you can go get.
These are the OG fetch lands.
Yes. I played these at my first Pro Tour.
Okay.
That they did what they said they would do.
That's definitely true.
Magic obviously blew the doors off of the cycle and just keeps doubling down on them to all of our detriment. These are pretty modest and fine, other than the names. Not really. No one really. This feels like a 12:01 deadline.
I was going to say this came in at the final minute. Yeah. Anybody got an idea for a final cycle?
Yeah.
We need names. Floodplain, fine. That's fine.
Right.
They've done much better than this, of course.
Yes.
Mirage has 1 matched pair and 2 mirrored pairs. This is the last part of our cycles here, folks. The matched pair is Tranquil Grove versus Serene Heart. Each of these common instants cost 1 and a green. One destroys all non-aura enchantments, and the other destroys all auras. Both are illustrated by D. Alexander Gregory. Now, hang on a second, because I've used the term auras quite a bit there, when I don't think that's what the cards say. So, Serene Heart destroys all local enchantments. Thank you very much. While Tranquil Domain, so I even wrote the card name down wrong, destroys all global enchantments.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that wasn't confusing back in the day.
Yeah. Local versus global and global versus enchant world, because globe and world are pretty close as far as words go. Horrendous.
Yep. You can't, there's nothing you can do to tell me that this was not confusing back in the day.
It was.
Mirrored pairs. Burning Palm Ifrit versus Harmattan Ifrit. These uncommon 2/2 Ifrit creatures, 1 blue and 1 red, both cost 2 MM and have an activated ability of 1 MM that grants or removes flying respectively from a target creature. How do you feel about Ifrits as a creature type?
Love them.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do like the sort of negative costing. You're not fully in control of what this thing is doing. It feels a little autonomous, or that, they're getting something out of the deal too.
Yep.
I think it works really well for that creature type. And that's not the type of thing that you want to do very often, typically on designs. And you probably don't want to do that many Ifrits in general for world building purposes. So it's a really clean marriage when it comes up.
And then our last mirrored pair is the Burning Shield Ascari versus the Zalfrin Knight. These common 2/2 Knight creatures, 1 white and 1 red. Both cost 2 in a mana and have flanking. And then you can pay 2 of their respective mana, either 2 red or 2 white, and give them first strike until end of turn.
Yeah, it's a onboard flanking spy versus spy.
I like it.
Yeah, whatever.
Everybody, those are the cycles here of Mirage. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we have what many people enjoy about our show, trivia, right after this. All right, everybody, it is trivia time here on the Mirage episode of the Resleevables. Now, sometimes we have a ton of trivia to go over. This time, not as much, but we will start things off with Cadaverous Bloom, a card we have not had the opportunity to talk about much yet. This allowed a player to generate large amounts of mana, frequently used in conjunction with Drain Life, as famously part of a deck called Pros Bloom that comboed with the card Prosperity.
Yes.
What's your history with this?
A little bit before my time in terms of playing serious tournament Magic.
Okay.
But we were aware of the deck.
I heard of Pros Bloom when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Cool combo deck, get a bunch of mana, kill your opponent with Drain Life.
Yeah, it's actually not that cool in practice, because it is a lot of monopolizing the clock in a spot where you're 99.99% to win.
Okay.
It is in some ways the original High Tide deck.
Okay.
But it was cool in terms of it was very different.
Yep.
And played with cards that were unique to itself. It really was its own thing. And a lot of Magic decks, if you look back at the time, are sort of kind of what the good cards are pretty well established. You can make some metagame calls here and there, but it's kind of defined. And this was, wow, I've never seen 5 of these cards in a deck before, and they're all here.
We got Celestial Dawn, which was nicknamed Bleach by players. Could make a multicolor deck into monochrome white. Counter spells, direct damage, and all the other color specialties are then available to the white player.
I prefer whiteout or the whites.
I like the whites.
The white.
I like that one the most. Let's talk about Grinning Totem, a card that I had when I was a kid, and I thought I was the luckiest kid alive. It evolved the Jester's Cap, concept one step further, not only letting one look through their opponent's library and remove a card, but then, at an insult to injury, allows you to play that card as if it were in your own hand, possibly turning your opponent's most powerful spell against them.
This thing is so damn cool. Because we're already at a time where Jester's Cap blew people's minds.
Yeah.
And it's like, how could you ever do anything cooler than that? And it was like, how about this? You could play their card. It's also interesting that this card is, fondly remembered or barely remembered at all versus Bribery, which has something of a notorious reputation.
Yep.
And it's because mana is still a gate. Bribery is just whatever your best creature is, it's on the battlefield right now on my side, no mana involved.
Yep.
This is if I want to take your 8 mana creature, it's actually kind of a pain to do that.
Yeah.
And therefore, often I take like a 1 or 2 mana spell out of your deck instead of your most valuable, most desired, your favorite card, whatever it happens to be. So it plays pretty well for what the effect is, which is a hard thing to execute on something that's potentially as invasive as pick up your deck, find your best card, and take it.
This card has just winning artwork.
So
because I remember I had this in my binder and I would just look at it all the time and just be like, I'm never trading this.
I'm almost positive this was the most valuable card in the set when the set came out.
I know it was very valuable.
Yeah.
I know that for sure.
Yeah. And it was
I wouldn't trade it.
Rancid. It is spoiled milk, but that does not matter.
Doesn't matter.
It is beautiful.
Morrow was named after designer Mark Rosewater and quickly became a favorite for green creature-based decks. The name came about when Rosewater came up with the design, but only put his internal tag, MARO, as the placeholder name, and the creative team liked it. Its concept would be revisited with Multani, Morrow Sorcerer, in Urza's Legacy, and Molimo, Morrow Sorcerer, in Invasion. In 2005's Saviors of Kamigawa, a real humdinger of a set, a rare cycle of creatures based on hand size were printed with Morrow in their names, such as Kajimaro, however you want to pronounce it, Morrow, First to Suffer. I know that card well. I'm like 99%. Jerry used to play this card a ton.
Kagamaru?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Pretty messed up.
Yeah. It was a really, really good card. And then the art was an original piece of art depicting the so-called Green Man, which was acquired by art director Sue Ann Harkey. So, Morrow's a cool card.
Yeah.
It's a really cool card.
It is, people loved it, even though it wasn't good, was never good.
Yep.
Which is always a good sign as far as I'm concerned.
Totally agree.
There is a little bit of I don't like you have Morrow and the number of times where you do something and I go, it's dead now.
Yeah.
It's not great.
It's not fun.
But it's still cool and beloved.
We are moving on now to Political Trickery, which was one of the first control exchanges and remains one of the few ways to exchange lands, as most control exchangers exclude them. How do you feel about cards that make players exchange permanents?
Generally pretty positive on them.
Okay.
Assuming both players going to have to opt into the experience.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of room for counterplay and for the person building a deck around it to do some cool stuff. I think that really breaks down with lands. It's so rare that you can, with creatures, for example, swapping control of creatures have sort of by definition a very variable quality.
Sure.
You have a 6 mana thing, I have a 1 mana thing, swap it, look what I just did.
Yep.
Lands are supposed to be a lot flatter in terms of that power level. This card did show up a little bit in sort of the type 1 scene at the time because stealing someone's library was so busted.
Yep.
It had some purpose. And generally I do like the swap stuff, but with lands it's so often just about color screwing someone.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And therefore it's not really fertile space, whereas I think swapping control of creatures is awesome.
Tika's Dragon was based on the artificial dragon made by a character named Tika in the short story Better Mousetrap from the anthology Distant Plains, but who cares about that? 9 mana 5/5. Flying, trample, rampage 4 counts as a dragon. I love this card.
Yeah, good luck triple blocking my flying creature.
That's right.
You're in trouble.
Got that covered.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool, whatever. People liked it because it's just a big old dragon with some stuff going on, and those don't have to be good for them to have an audience. But really, flying in Rampage is just like, when is this ever happening?
I don't know what kind of games you play.
Double blocking?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Triple block.
Yeah, it's
really
like, you're dead now.
Yes.
You didn't want to just take 5?
Karavak's Torch and Torrent of Lava have unusual stack-based abilities that they don't do this anymore. So Karavak's Torch, it kind of has Ward 2 on it against counterspells. Years before, Ward was keyworded. And then Torrent of Lava. This one I want to read really quick. So XRR Sorcery. Torrent of Lava deals X damage to each creature without flying. Each creature gains tap, prevent 1 damage to this creature from Torrent of Lava.
Yeah. Bad design, even setting aside, it does not work in the rules.
No, it's already resolved, so your creatures are dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Just
that's good try.
Standing there waiting for the prevention trigger that will never come.
I like the idea of you just being covered in lava and you're like, oh, try to wipe it off or something.
No, I really like the idea of you're like this pyro mage and you have all of your creatures, your minions serving you, and you're about to do this like volcano explosion, and they're looking at you like what are you about to do? And it's like, don't worry, you can prevent 1.
Sure.
I got you covered on the back end. Don't worry.
Save yourselves. These 2 cards, Karavak's Torch and Torrent of Lava, alongside Lightning Storm, are the only spells that have on the stack in their plain Oracle text. And I'm going to say this. Karavak's Torch, Torrent of Lava, acceptable mistakes. Still kind of new at this. Lightning Storm, we're deep into the game. I have no idea why that card exists the way it does.
Yeah, so there's 3 tiers of this to me, which is tier 1, the most acceptable. Karavak's Torch. Pretty clear what that card does, even if the particulars of the rules don't support it very well. Then you have tier 2, which is Torrent of Lava, which doesn't work and is confusing, but it probably didn't matter.
Sure.
And then you have Lightning Storm, which is like, I played Magic for 20 years. I've read this thing 10 times. I still don't know how it works.
Lightning Storm is the only card on Magic Online that when I cast it, I'm just like, I'm not sure how much damage I'm going to deal because I don't know. Like a lot of the time when I'm playing Magic Online and like I want to hold part or something, I play Magic Online almost every day. I still don't know if it's Control or Alt. So I always hold them both.
Yes, cannot be too safe.
And then sometimes I also do Shift because I'm just not sure which one it is. Lightning Storm, I think the answer is none of them.
I'm pretty sure I've told this before, but it's one of my all-time favorite Magic stories. Is day 2 of a Grand Prix. Paul Rietzel in the Hall of Fame, Pro Tour champion, one of the best to ever do it, calls over a judge and says, how does this card work?
Okay.
And for Lightning Storm.
Yeah.
And the judge is about to give him an unsportsmanlike conduct of like, you're obviously messing with me. And Paul's like, no, I don't know what this card does or how it works. Can someone explain it to me? And he had to convince the judge that he was earnestly asking the question, which he was, before he was able to get something approximating plain English for how that card functions.
It's nonsense. It's a nonsense Magic card.
What does this card do? It's really good.
Phyrexian Dreadnought, a 12/12 artifact trampler with casting cost of 1, was the card that inspired Mark Rosewater to start writing his regular set preview teasers, is what I have learned. And it is that card's a humdinger. It's its own card. Kind of can't believe it exists, really.
I don't like Phyrexian Dreadnought that much.
Okay. I'm not sure I like it. It's just, it's a weird card.
Yeah, it is very weird. It's its own thing. So there's, I've talked a lot this episode and previous ones about you can play this face up, but if you go digging a little deeper, there's something underneath the surface.
Yeah.
And Phyrexian Dreadnought is so transparent that there is nothing normal or face up to do with it. Like I'm going to sack a million creatures and then have this summoning sick artifact creature that's just going to die. Like, why would I ever do this? That really the only solution to it is cheating cost somehow, putting it directly into play out of your deck if the rules support it, or a stifle effect or whatever. And the rules are so ambiguous around that class of stuff that it's pointing in this direction of like, I need to search for synergies, but I don't even really know what I'm looking for because it's so rulesy that I need to have someone in my store tell me what works with this so I can do it.
Sure. How exactly do I do this?
Yeah.
Because, a 1 mana 12/12 is with trample is very attractive, but like you're not playing it honestly.
So imagine if Phyrexian Dreadnought was the same design, but it said sacrifice 3 creatures.
Sure.
Sacrifice 3 non-token creatures, even, let's say.
Okay.
That design's probably a little bit more powerful. But that would direct it into the place of, oh, okay, I could figure something out. I could play with Elvish Visionaries or whatever and sort of set this thing up where I'm getting this great deal. The fact that the power that you need to sacrifice is equal to the power of the creature means that putting all your eggs in one basket, plus the opportunity cost of even having that many creatures in play in the first place, is the card's pretty transparently useless in the normal case.
Mm-hmm.
And then the confusion on the back end is, I'm glad it exists as like a legacy card and a vintage card or whatever. It's added to the game's tournament history, but I think this is the wrong way to do this sort of design.
Well, that's the right way to do trivia here for our Mirage episode of the Resleevables, which means we're taking a short break and we're heading to everyone's favorite part of the show. It's the award show for Mirage right after this. All right, everybody. We are back for your favorite part of the show. It's our favorite part of the show. It's arguably everybody's favorite part of the show. It's the award show here for Mirage, and we will kick things off, as we always do, with the Oko Thief of Crowns Award for best card in the set. And your answer is...
Flash.
We have not mentioned this card yet.
It's really messed up.
You know what's also great about this card is on first read, it doesn't even look good, really.
No, and it is a little bit of an expanding card pool issue. There's some standard formats you would put this in, and I actually don't think there would be that many where it would be modest, because there's always, 8 mana creatures with some sick ETB or death trigger or whatever.
Sure.
So a little bit of a scaling card pool. This was also something that was functionally errataed because it had something of a tournament resume off the jump. And the way that Flash used to work was you had to actually pay the mana difference to get the creature to come into play at all.
Yep.
So it was essentially, what the card did was very little. It was basically some level of mana fixing, plus you get to play the creature instant speed instead of sorcery speed. Magic correctly said, we're not doing the functional power level errata anymore. If we need to ban this thing, we will. But we're not going to ask our players to know the permutations of all the errata for tens of thousands of cards over the game's history. That is correct. Unfortunately, in this case, it was busted immediately, had to be banned in Legacy, which is a pretty high bar to get banned in power level in Legacy.
Yep.
And when it is available in Vintage Cube is one of the sickest cards.
I have been around the block here for a while playing in random tournaments, and sometimes you forget the tournaments you play in. Because I've been playing Tournament Magic for 20 years. I was at the Flash GP.
Mm-hmm.
I was there. What a tournament.
Yeah.
What a stupid tournament.
Do you remember the finals, the sequence? The winning player in that tournament was Steve Sadin.
Yep.
Turn 1, Mystical Tutor for Days.
Yep.
Opponent had Red up to Pyroblast. Turn 2, Flash, Days, dead.
Dead.
End of tournament.
Yeah. Have a good day. No muss, no fuss.
Mystical Tutor for Days is so sick.
Yeah. I've got you beat, dude.
I got you beat. I got you covered, and then some.
If you've never looked up the coverage for that tournament, feel free. It was there were the players that played Flash, and there were players that did not.
Mm-hmm.
If only. One of the things I'm proud of myself now, outside of always calling Jerry Thompson whenever I need a deck, is just I don't play bad decks anymore. I just play whatever the best deck is.
Yeah, I wish I had kind of gotten on that train at some point.
Same.
There's sometimes where I look back at lists from 10 or 15 years ago that I like won a PTQ with or top 8 in SCG or whatever, and I go, I must be the greatest player alive.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, look at this. Look at this.
I could have just been playing 2 mana win the game.
I know.
I was like,
yeah.
nah. You know what I played in that? You know what I was casting that tournament?
Common Lackey?
No. If only. Starstorm.
Oh my goodness.
That's right.
That's nice.
I built a Jeskai land still deck.
Mm-hmm.
that Starstorm could like break up the flash combo.
Oh yeah.
I played a card called Odds and Ends.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you know what that is?
I don't.
Okay, so it's a split card, and the odds half, I think it either copied the spell or countered the spell.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so if opponent casts flash, I could like either I think that's what I had it for, was like I either got to copy it. Oh no, that was my tech against them. That's what it was. It was for the mirror. If I played a flash deck, it was like odds end your flash. Either I get my own, and hopefully I have like the rest of the stuff in my hand, or yours is countered.
Yeah, this does sound worse to me than just playing Flash.
I didn't do well in the tournament. Anyway, my choice for Oko Thief of Crowns Award was Lion's Eye Diamond, which, like, I don't play Storm or anything like that, and I don't draft Storm in Vintage Cube or anything, but I do recognize that this card is very powerful. But as you so eloquently put it, this is because of expanding card pools.
Yep, this was actually rated by Inquest, I believe, the worst card in the set, purposeless, and an old friend of mine told me when this came out, I don't remember, I was in the 8th grade or freshman, but I opened up a Lion's Eye Diamond in the pack and tore it up. So I'm like, this is useless.
There you go.
Not the first time I've incinerated $500, won't be the last.
You betcha.
But yeah, that memory stings.
We're going to go to the Carnival of Souls Award now for the worst card in the set. My selection is Zebra Unicorn. They could do a lot better for a green-white card, I'll tell you that much. This thing, I'm bringing up on Scryfall, 2 green and a white, so that's a 4-mana 2/2. For each 1 damage that the unicorn deals, I get to gain a life. Lucky me.
That's pretty nice.
I'm going to get to gain 2 life.
I wonder what the creative link is between a Zebra Unicorn and El Hajjaj. Because they do the same thing.
They do. What a horrible card. Your choice was the Sawback Manticore?
Sawback Manticore, yeah, it's a lot, doesn't really do anything. It's a lot of mana. This is another strike against Mirage as a set, which, like I said, very fond of, is the gold cards in this set are pitiful. Like, for a set that finally correctly embraces, let's do a ton of gold cards. Let's even make some enemy color ones. Let's make gold cards, 10% of the set or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, can we make any of them any good at all? And no. They're quite bad.
I just want to get this out here now too. I'm uncomfortable with manticores.
How come?
A legendary animal having the head of a man, often with horns, the body of a lion, and the tail of a dragon.
Yeah, I think that manticores are kind of like derivative. It's awfully similar to other combinations of man and beast.
I don't like it.
Also, it's like the least iconic part of a dragon is probably its tails.
There's that.
Yeah, let's just make a brief fire. Okay, now we got something.
The Doomblade Award for the best non-rare in the set. Your selection.
Okay, this is not a fair selection. I think yours is better. I think my selection goes against the spirit of the award.
Okay.
I'm going to give it a Mystical Tutor. Just, there's some uncommon tutors in the set.
Sure. What's wrong with that?
I really don't mind Worldly Tutor and Enlightened Tutor that much for the era with those development sensibilities, because someone tutors for a permanent, it's sort of implicit that there's going to be some reaction window possible down the line. Getting a spell is like, it's hard to interact with spells. So it's like it's kind of where you really want to subsidize things.
Yeah.
Early on in this card's history, I played against it a lot where people would just go get Ancestral or Time Walk or Time Twister, whatever seemed appropriate. Over time, it got better than that.
Yeah. To say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I selected Wall of Roots, which, it still sees play in Modern.
Yes.
Which is pretty cool. It's its own unique sort of mana generation for green decks, and it's one of the best mana accelerant, 2-mana mana accelerants, I think, of all time, as far as green is concerned. Sweet card.
What I love about this card, it's such a hard thing to hit, but it is very much mechanically not a green card while really feeling like a green card.
I would agree with that.
Like, putting -0/-1 counters on your thing that does not sound very green to me. But there is this, I'm getting some lumber off of this thing.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Super cool card. We are moving on now to the Aboro Palace in the Clouds Award for fun of one of in the set. Your selection
Refresh my memory.
Ancestral Memories.
Oh yeah, that was a card that I just played some as a kid in one of in some decks because I don't know, it was a weird amount of selection and the all the blue mana pips spoke to me a certain way.
Okay.
And yeah, like one copy was just sweet, just a fun card to draw and play with.
My selection is Sacred Mesa, which this is before my time. This was basically a card you could play as a one of win condition in your deck.
Yeah, this card, I would say this was probably the worst set to print it in.
Okay.
Because it's so similar to Geldorn Outpost, and you just want to space that out or whatever.
Yeah.
I think this card would have had a pretty good shot at showing up in most standard formats, kind of in Magic's early history, if it wasn't competing with a card that was basically the same thing but better.
Gotcha. We're gonna go to the Mystic Confluence Award. Got it right this time. For the best vintage cube card in the set, yours is the same thing as your Oak with Thief of Crowns award.
Yeah, this is one of the sets where there's enough vintage heat where it's overlapping.
Yeah, you've got Flash.
Flash is so messed up. It's only not the right answer if it's not in the cube, and it's not in the cube sometimes because it's so messed up.
Yeah, my choice is Lion's Eye Diamond, which again, everybody knows I don't draft Storm. Well, at least if you watch me play Vintage Cube, you know that. But again, I understand that it's messed up and is a very high pick. So respect, even though I'll never, ever, ever do anything that looks like that. Smothering Tide Award for the best commander card in the set. I went to EDH Rec and I found out that Enlightened Tutor is very, very popular. So that'll be my selection. Being able to tutor up in Artifact or Enchantment. Whatever, it's a good card.
Mm-hmm.
Yours, do you remember?
Is it Whirly Tutor?
That's correct.
Yeah. It's tutoring that's fun. EDH players love tutoring that's not fun. And it's hard to get that right because the whole conceit of the format is playing one copy of things. So tutors are already pretty dissonant.
Yeah.
But someone who's going to tutor for a creature is probably up for a good time.
I would agree.
Probably it's a game that all the table can play with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree with that.
And Enlightened Tutor starts to tread into the territory that's bad, and then Mystical Tutor is just bad.
Yeah.
But Whirly Tutor is sweet.
The Pat Grad Award for best limited card in the set. Okay, I'm going to get my answer out of the way first because your answer is outrageously good. So, as Patrick and I were going over our notes here for the pre-show for our awards, I selected Savage Twister. Kills everything. I also remember playing it with it in Ravnica Block when they reprinted it for Gruul. It was a busted uncommon then, and I can only imagine that back in the day it was probably similarly as good. Just kill all your stuff, hopefully leave something alive for me. A completely reasonable choice. And you did better than that.
Yeah, so they say that Mirage was the first set for design with sealed and limited play in mind. And it is a big step forward. But there are some bumps in the road. For example, Karavek's Torch, uncounterable fireball at common. That's a little bit much.
Fireball at common is unbelievable.
Yes.
That is unbelievable. Not like, it's not Heat Ray.
Oh, no.
No, it's a lot better than Heat Ray.
Yeah.
It is dome you or dome your thing. Have a good day. Common. Yeah.
Would it be my answer if it was a rare? Probably not. I think there might be better rares in the set. But I did want to give it a shout out as the first common that was like, what is going on right now?
Yeah.
Who approved this?
The Char Rumbler Award for weirdest card in the set. I am going to go with the aforementioned Phyrexian Dreadnought. There's nothing normal about this card. You're not trying to do anything honest with this card. It is kind of cool and unique, and as you mentioned, it is part of Magic's tournament history, but it is a total weirdo, as is your answer.
Fairy Isle. Usually, these award goes to cards that are really long, but the inspiration for the award, Char Rumbler, is quite short.
It's true.
It's simply just confusing in practice what is going on.
It's true.
And Teferi Isle is like, when can I tap this for mana? When do we get to the point where I'm allowed to make 2 blue?
That wasn't a bit, by the way, earlier in the show.
No.
I was like, I don't really know how this works.
Like as someone who's, professional Magic player and like has spent, decades like writing articles and covering tournaments and playing in events, you were like 80% sure, but definitely not 100.
It was not 100. It's not 100. No. Just the idea that you're never going to get that 2 blue mana. It's just never going to happen. Let's go to let's go to the Blank Award for best card name in the set. My selection is the Hammer of Bogarden. First of all, not only is the name really cool, but boy, this artwork.
So sick.
It is so cool. This is the kind of artwork that you would show your friend and be like, yeah, the game that I play, is fucking cool.
Yes.
This is a really cool game. This card is super cool. Used to be a win condition all on its own. I'm trying to think of the name of the deck. Like, was it Counter Phoenix?
Counter Hammer.
Is it Counter Hammer?
Yeah.
Hammer. Okay, got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Incredible.
Loved it. Okay. Yours.
Early Harvest.
Yes.
Great name meets match for mechanics meets matches the tone of the world.
Very cool.
Yeah, just it's awesome on its own, and it speaks to what it does and the world you're in. It's beautiful.
We're gonna now go to the John Avon Award for best land artwork in the set. For me, I am going to go with Mountain Valley. I know the name of these fetch lands are pretty lame, but the artwork is pretty good here. So that is my selection. Yours?
The John Avon Sunset Mountain. This is one of I have a few mountains in my collection that I have, 20 to 30 copies of.
Okay.
And this is one of them for times where I feel like being a little bit different with my art.
It's a good one.
It's beautiful.
It's a really, really good one.
Yeah.
All these basics are really
the basics are just incredible in this set.
Yeah. I'm looking at them now. They're really good.
Yeah. I bought a heap of Mirage basics a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Just to have for cube and drafting and stuff like that.
And now we go to the Realist Fury Award for most overhyped card during previous season. I wasn't around then, so I don't have an answer, but you do.
Oh, that is Grinning Totem. This is
Fair.
are you kidding me? It's Sister's Cap, and I get to cast it? Busted.
How can they win?
Horrendous.
Yeah.
It's actually bad.
Tarmogoyf Award for most underhyped card during previous season.
Well, I don't remember my answer.
So your answer was Lion's Eye Diamond.
Oh, sure. I don't even know if that's a fair answer because there wasn't anything to do with Lion's Eye Diamond at the time.
Yeah, it got better, of course, once other cards came out. But
yeah, I would say if you, I guess my answer, or one answer I want to throw out there is Crystal Vein.
Okay.
It's a pretty innocuous card, but a land that comes into play untapped and can tap for 2 colorless is busted.
It's very powerful.
And this one's the opportunity cost is very low. There was a frame of reference for the Fallen Empire lands. Enters play tap for 1, sack for 2.
Yep.
Crystal Vein is way better than that.
Yep.
Just because the opportunity cost is so low, and people didn't really get their head around. I would argue still have not gotten their head around how powerful that card actually is.
Did it have much of a tournament resume?
So it was a feature in Tinker decks in Standard.
Okay.
You're not going to believe this if you're younger. Tinker was a deck in Standard. You played 4 Tinkers.
It's true.
And the artifacts that you were getting, they were quite good.
Yeah.
Some people played some copies in Hatred.
Okay.
Hatred style decks because it's just 2 mana, no drawback, doesn't cost you any life, whatever. Some of the Saga block big mana decks, because it got reprinted in course. They're really addicted to just mana, free mana for a very long time.
I'd argue they still are.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a standard Tinker deck. showed up quite a bit.
We're almost to Urza. That's a legacy. Urza's legacy. Tinker?
Yeah. It has, in my opinion, without really doing a deep dive, I'm confident it has to be top 10 most underplayed tournament cards of all time.
Okay.
Just times you could have played it and how good it was versus how many people actually played it. I would guess it's in the top 10.
This is Crystal Vein, by the way, not Tinker.
Yeah.
Crystal Vein.
Tinker, people figured that one out pretty fast.
Yeah, they did. All right, everybody. The award show is done, which means we have one thing left to do. Alrighty, partner. It's time to close her down. What card won Mirage for you? Do you remember your listed answer? And do you want to change your answer?
Was it?
Your listed answer is Hammerable Garden.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with that.
Okay.
Your answer's better, which bothers me. Get to that in a minute. Yeah, Hammer is just, look at the art, look at the card. It's new design space. It is an archetype onto itself, but it's also not bizarre. Any Magic player can pick that up, and it's a simple card to understand.
Yeah.
This is so cool. It makes you feel like you're wielding Thor's hammer, the act of picking up and swinging again.
Yep.
It's nuts. And it was good, but not as good as people sort of remember.
That's definitely true.
And it just speaks to how awesome the conceit is. the blend of mechanics meets flavor meets novel gameplay, a masterpiece.
All right, so my answer is a card that my best friend down the street used to play against me and kill me with. And anytime it showed up, I got really scared with good reason. Spirit of the Night.
That's an awesome answer.
6 BBB, 6/5. Flying trample, protection from black, first strike when attacking. Spirit of the Night is unaffected by summoning sickness. Just this gigantic legendary monster, which is also part of the storyline as well. But it's one of the first Magic cards that if you just look at it, you're like, holy crap. Like, this thing is weird and scary, and I don't want to play against this card. And then also it's just like, oh, also it just does a lot.
I also really like that there's the package that allows you to cheat it, the Urborg Panther and Friends.
Yeah.
And something that's cool about it is, Urborg Panther is a low rarity card. And so you're like, what is Spirit of the Night? Like, what? I never heard of that before.
Yeah.
Come find it. It's a cool play pattern too, because first of all, it's not trivial to cheat the thing out. You have to really mean it. And because it's not trivial, sometimes you just have to play with the cards as they are. And then Spirit of the Night is a simple and straightforward card. It's not like the game, managing these different game pieces and trying to set up the combo can be hard for you and a little opaque for the opponent who might not know what Spirit of the Night even does or what the individual pieces do. But the fact that it results into something simple and straightforward is so good. Yeah. Really disciplined.
Tells a really good story.
It's the nuts. I know this is not like a competitive segment or whatever, but when you said Spirit of the Night, I was like, oh crap, that's just like obviously the right answer. So nicely done.
Thank you. As far as giving the set a grade, I try to save this until I get to the end of the episode after I've had some discourse with you through the episode. And so now I'm going to come to my grade, and I'm going to come to a 7 here.
Okay.
Good set. Really fun. There's it's not perfect, obviously, but there's a lot of positive things to look at here. There's cool cards. The artwork is great. The stories that are being told here are great. The names of the cards are cool. The lands are awesome. You very much feel like you are in a very specific kind of world when you are playing this set. I don't really think personally that there's anything that's like horrible to play like against. Like phasing is a little confusing and flanking isn't really particularly cool. But, there's nothing that stands out here, at least off the top of my head, that is like, oh, that's awful. And that kind of ruins this set, right? And there's some unique cards that are like build-arounds, like Polymorph. Yeah. Like, what do I do with this card? Which is also kind of true today. We see Polymorph effects nowadays, and we all know how to build a deck around Polymorph now. But before, that was probably a fun little deck building experiment to see if this is a thing that you could do. And can you build a Spirit of the Night deck with like, what is it called, Breath Stealer and all that other stuff? Maybe yes, maybe no. I think all these things are really cool. And then of course there's a cycle of dragons. People have dragons, even if they're not even that good. There's a lot of cool things going on here. I don't know. The reprinting of Dark Ritual might be the most egregious thing.
Yeah, I give Mirage an 8.
Okay,
we share a lot of the same sensibilities about this. I think the combination of a ton of kind of useful cards meets kind of one of build a deck around this exploration thing to think about. It's a really good ratio. Magic is a little too high at this era on doing one thing or the other. For example, I would argue in Alliances, chock full of useful cards, not a whole lot of head scratchers or like things to really build around. It's just some good rates and some stuff you're kind of familiar with for the most part. The sets going back earlier than that have a lot of, oh, this is like a weird thing to think about. Not a lot of nuts and bolts stuff. Mirage is the first set that I think has kind of the right blend of both of those things. Really good starting point. The art and the flavor and the story building is exceptional. I consider Love Song of Night and Day something that is a poem or story that's written across a lot of flavor text in the set to be Magic's single greatest creative output.
Okay.
Because the pieces of flavor text by themselves are individually very, very cool and very beautiful. Together, it starts to kind of tell a story of the world, but something that it implies is that the story is not done. It's something that is constantly added to. So you feel like you're in the present moment but history's not done. You're going to continue to add to this, canon of poems and stories. It's awe-inspiring on top of the artwork, the way the lands look, all of that.
Yep.
I don't think the mechanics really pull their weight. I think flanking is basically not worth the text on a card.
Okay.
And phasing is, like I said, it's cool, and there's a lot that I like about it in terms of the gameplay principles. Just too weird and convoluted. The average player can't get their head around it.
I totally agree with that.
But I would say, to Mirage's credit, I don't know if this is intentional or not, flanking and phasing, these are not really where the power level for constructed is put. They're there, but it's not really a prevalent thing. There are a bunch of useful cards that don't speak to the set's mechanics that are just like fun and cool things on their own, and those are where a lot of the power of the set is placed in.
Sure.
So again, I can't say if that was on purpose or not, but I think it ended up playing out pretty well. So great set. Really, some of the architecture for modern sets come out of this. The block structure that came out of this was Magic's go-to for...
I forgot about that.
I don't even know, 20 years or whatever.
20-ish, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot to love here. Just the mechanics themselves. Basically, my strikes on the set are mechanics are not great, and I don't know why the gold cards suck so bad.
Sure.
And other than that, it's really not only fun, but just lovely. Like something, it's a set that when I was playing Magic at the time, I wanted to show these cards to my friends who were not playing it.
Sure.
It's like, look at how cool this is.
Yeah, and it is really cool.
Yeah.
Scoreboard. Don't want to forget that. Let's take a look ski on how we have reviewed other sets. Of course, you and I gave Alpha, Beta, Unlimited 10s. We gave Fallen Empires. I gave it a 2, you gave it a 3. Chronicles, we both still are only 1s on the board. And now, of course, Mirage, I gave a 7, and you gave an 8. We'll be adding to that very soon with our next episode, which is Visions. However, we got to do some shilling on our way out the door. So first and foremost, you're probably watching this on YouTube. And if you are, we appreciate it very much. Please do subscribe, as we are trying to get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Of course, when you subscribe here on YouTube, you'll get notified when new episodes go up of this, of our gameplay series, which hopefully you've had the opportunity to check out as well, the 1994 Magic the Gathering World Championships, where we broke that down and also played some games. You can also find snippets of our Unsleeved podcast, previous episodes of the Resleevables, some other cool stuff that's going on in this channel. So thank you for subscribing if you have done so already. If you've not, please do. You can, of course, if you'd like to get early episodes of the Resleevables, head over to patreon.com/theresleevables, where you can find a rewards tier that works for you, and you will get early episodes of the Resleevables. You'll get full access to the Unsleeved podcast that Patrick and I do 3 times a month. You'll get access to early Cracker packs that come out, and also you can find the reward tier of $10 or $25 on Patreon, where you can get one of those packs that we do not crack.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that. And lastly, if you'd like to, you can follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/Resleevables, where, again, more notifications, fun stuff that we tweet out, all of that jazz, to stay up to date on everything that is Resleevables related. Lastly, a reminder where Eternal lives.
TOA Magic, Tales of Adventure, TOAmagic.com.
Perfect. Well done. What's on the horizon for us? Well, 2 things. 1, Visions, which... This is 1 Visions pack. You can have that one. That's a Weatherlight pack. That's further down the road. I got the other Visions pack here. Do you know what's good in this set? So
what's still worth money?
Yeah.
Not really. I would assume that no, that's Weatherlight. Maybe Vampiric Tutor?
That's probably worth something.
I don't know. I'm not up to date on the Visions. Mirage, though, that's got a hitter. That's got a certified LED. That's got a certified, real money card in it. We haven't had one of those since Italian Legends.
Yeah.
So this is pretty exciting.
Also, I was reading this pack here. An expansion for Mirage and Magic the Gathering. I don't know. It's just kind of a nice thing to have on the pack. That's all. I think it's kind of cool that it says that. So we'll be recording a Visions episode here soon. And then second, we will be recording the 1995 Magic the Gathering World Championships, where we'll go over that. We'll play some games of the finalist deck and a whole bunch more. So that's on the horizon. But for now, we're all done. So for Patrick Sullivan, I am Cedric Phillips. thank you so much for watching All Things Mirage.